tajjñasya puṇyapāpābhyāṃ sparśo antah na jāyate na ākāśasya dhūmena dṛśyamānā'pi saṃgatiḥ. Indeed, the heart of one who has comprehended the self is not touched by virtue and vice, just as the space is uncontaminated by smoke, even though apparently it exists in space. All dirt, all good, all bad things in the world, including the creation itself, exists inside or within the space. Space does not touch any of them. In case of smoke and space analogy, if both are imagined to be within a place, a house, a container, etc., it should be noted that the smoke and space both exist in such a way that we cannot say smoke is inside the space. If that be so, then the question arises, how space does not touch or get contaminated by smoke or smell, or how smoke or smell is not able to touch this space, though both are existing within a container or within a room. It's an interesting question. The answer is, space is subtler than smoke, and space is subtler than all material objects which can be perceived in this creation. For one thing to touch the other thing, both should have some property, some attributes. If both objects have some property or form, each can touch one another. For example, two ships can touch one another, two animals can touch one another, two birds can touch one another, even two objects of different species, a bird and a man, can touch each other, etc. However, space does not have any property, any form, any color, any attribute. Therefore, grosser object cannot touch the subtler space. So smoke, which has a property of smell, cannot touch space which has no property. Let us analyze the extent of the subtlety in the case of 5 koshas and then come to the subtlest Atman in comparison with these 5 koshas. Annamaya kosha The second layer, pranamaya kosha, being smaller, it is subtler than annamaya kosha, not smaller. It is subtler than annamaya kosha, and therefore pranamaya is less knowable than annamaya. Manomaya kosha is less knowable than prana. Vijnanamaya kosha is more subtler and less knowable than manomaya kosha. And anandamaya kosha, bliss sheet, is far subtler than vijnanamaya kosha, and therefore it is very difficult to know or identify the experience in Anandamaya kosha at the time of deep sleep. These 5 koshas are comparable with the various layers of onion. Corresponding to the 5 layers, 5 koshas, let us assume for understanding purpose 5 layers of an onion, and let us peel them off one by one. And the first level onion layer, let us assume as annamaya, and then go up to let us reach to the 5th layer, anandamaya kosha. Once all layers are peeled off in an onion, there is nothing there inside, nothing perceivable, nothing seen. Does it mean that subtler than the Anandamaya kosha there is nothing at all, just like subtler than the last layer of the onion there is nothing seen at all? Does it mean subtler than the Anandamaya kosha, what we call as Atman, does not exist at all? No. Atman is the subtlest. Just like we dealt with space, it being subtlest, each of the layer of the onion which have a property, a smell, each of the koshas, 5 koshas, which have some attribute which can be experienced. However, when we reach to the subtlest, subtler than the Anandamaya kosha, or subtler than the last piece of the onion peel, there is nothing perceivable, there is nothing which can give you any experience at the material level. Thus, Atman, exactly like space, it does not touch any of the koshas because all other koshas have a form and a property. Atman does not have a form, does not have a property, does not have an attribute. So it is subtler than the subtlest. Having understood this, let's proceed to the state of a Jivan Mukta. This verse talks about punyam and papam. In the case of a jnani or a mukta, there are no leftover vasanas for accumulating fresh punya and fresh papam. All that he goes through even after realization, as learnt in the karma session, or the in-flight arrows or the prarabdha karma, which is already going on in his life. What is the impact of the in-flight arrows or the ongoing prarabdha karma with respect to his past punya papam in case of a jivan mukta. Say issues at home, at family, at job friend, health factor of self or health factor of others at home, in family, settlement issues of children, monetary issues, and many other challenges. All the above issues are experienced at his mental level, at manomaya kosha. Already his inner state, subtler state of manomaya is the vijnanamaya and the anandamaya. Whereas a jnani state is subtler than the anandamaya kosha. Thus, existing in that subtlest state as pure self, he has no cognizance of the prarabdha karma he is facing because of his past papa and punya. Though he is actually facing them, going through them, he is not affected by whatever is happening to his BMI due to the prarabdha karma. In this space example, we observe that no object can touch space because space has no form attributes. If this is truth about space, then imagine the subtlety of a Jivan Mukta's state of pure self, not his body, of the state as pure self, where even the subtler space which the smoke cannot touch, which other things cannot touch, even that space is within the Jivan Mukta existing as pure self. Or, to put it with more clarity, the state as pure self as is subtler than the space. Okay. So, even the space cannot touch his state, the pure self, then where is all this punyam, papam and all other things which are existing within the space in the physical identity of a Jivan Mukta? Even the creation is inside the space, or the space is subtler than the creation, and the space is inside the self because self is subtler than the space. Then how can the creation touch him? Touch his state as self? In Hanuman Chalisa, there is a line, remember, all these bullet points were noted down in the Bhiwadi days, where simultaneously Hanuman Chalisa talks were going on. There is a line, Sushma Rupa Dhari Siyahi Dikhava. Hanuman took Sushma Rupa to approach Sita. The subtler he existed as, it became difficult for the grosser asuras to spot him. This exactly explains the state of a Jivan Mukta who is subtler than everything else, including the creation. All five koshas are operating in him. He is moving about in the society, performing various tasks. However, all the koshas have some character, some nature, some function, whereas his inner state of self has no function, no nature, no color, no characteristic, no form, and hence he remains free from 5 koshas. He remains free from the 3 bodies. He remains free from the 3 states of consciousness. He remains free from the 3 worlds. Though he may be engaged in the world at his physical level. As long as he is in creation, at least when he is in the waking state, he is aware that he exists and the creation also exists, apparently. But in the case of Videha Mukta, Janaka was a Videha Mukta, or an Avadhuta who has gone far away from the world, from all duties and lives alone. In their case, they are not aware of the creation. Even if their body is suffering on account of prarabdha, they are not aware of it. They are not sensitive towards the physical suffering. They are not aware of the creation. Literally, the essence of the verse goes true in the case of a Videha Mukta. He exists beyond space, with space within him. He is untouched by space, and therefore he is absolutely untouched by all other things which are grosser than the space and which are inside the space. We will end with Acharya's line in his commentary. The royal activities and their anxieties, the court and its pleasures, the throne and its responsibilities, all are apparently around the saintly king, but none of them can affect his deep spiritual wisdom, just as the space is not contaminated by the dust or smoke that is held suspended in it. Hari Om Tat Sat.